Hey, it's Jeremy from Jeremy.net. And speaking of Jeremy.net, this is the time-lapse video from my Wonderland Nightmare series, and this is the Cheshire Cat piece. And the art print of the finished image of this is available for purchase at Jeremy.net, and the original ink drawing is also available for sale. So before getting too much into the process and the detail of this piece, I have to give a big shout out to K. Michael Russell and his YouTube channel Color with Kurt. And basically I have him to thank for figuring out how to color in Procreate. So, the least I can do is give him a shout out in this video. And he does most of his work as a comic book colorist, and so in fact this is done in sort of my traditional comic book style with pen and ink and brush. I was like, well, the first thing I needed to do was figure out how to do flats in color, which is one of the things that he communicates. And it's difficult to do flats in a traditional style because it doesn't, just because of the way that there is no actual magic wand in the sense that the magic wand in Photoshop has, and Procreate doesn't work the same way. So I kind of had to do a little workaround in order to get that. Well, Kurt had a workaround and explains his process, but you should go to his channel, watch his videos for that. He deserves all the credit for that. So back into my process. And for this, a lot of this here is just trying for me to think ahead and figure out how much rendering I really wanted to do on this, because this is something I could really see working with very, very flat, simple color. But the more I went in and the more I was experimenting with what Procreate could do, the more rendering I started adding to it. Because even like this, where you just see this colored background, which I really wanted to get the background done first. And I was almost planning to consider having the Cheshire Cat almost just white, with just a little bit of rendering to give the sense of the, just red stripes and bright yellow eyes kind of staring out at you, kind of playing with that feeling that Pennywise from It has, because that was a big inspiration for this. The whole series of the Wonderland Nightmare are Stephen King inspired pieces after a nightmare I had. So, going with this with the orange hair and the teeth. And it's weird because going back and looking at this video now, I'm even thinking about somewhere down the line maybe doing a stripped down version without as much rendering. Because look at it just like this. When I have the white and the stripes blocked in, I'm pretty happy with how that looks. But the more I went in, just adding little subtle rendering and subtle touches, I think a big part of it was that as happy as it looks here, as happy as I was with how it looks here, it feels very flat and graphic. You don't have the sense of environment. And after the nice gradient I added to the background and adding that shading and that sense of lighting to the balloons, I went through and I started painting in more and more of the trees, the branches around, giving that sense that the character is in a forest. Because creating that sense of atmosphere will make the impact, as you'll see later on. You'll notice that when I first started painting the background, I painted in the background and then started doing the Cheshire Cat on top of it. That's because I'm going to paint in most of the Cheshire Cat, and then when I get to the end, I end up putting a mask over a layer set and just sort of masking him out to have it fade into the background. There's lots of little things. There's a lot of trial and error that I did in here. Like at first, I was drawing in, you could see there was some orange kind of around the edges of the character that was soft, and I just erased all that and went with hard lines. And this was more of me just kind of trying to figure out what exactly I wanted the lighting to be like. And considering that the lighting in the background was more soft, gradient, airbrushy, I decided that part of what stylistically I felt would help the Cheshire Cat pop out more is, as you can see here, instead of doing soft airbrush rendering, these are all just hard lines, just, sharp cuts of light really jumping out at it. There's a little airbrushing here in the ears, a little softness, but then I back that up with almost like a rim light. And it's interesting here because that's sort of what I'm going for. It's a halfway between a sharp, contrasty rim light and just having soft light kind of bleeding through. Like I think in the ears, you get a little bit of that sense of like light coming from behind, that bright sunlight shining through the thin skin of the ears. So at this point, this is where I went away from the flat graphic. And I definitely, I don't know if Procreate saves this stuff. I don't think that it shows in the time lapse all the things that you start doing and then undo. Because I know that I definitely went through multiple phases where I was painting this out, figuring out how much light I wanted, redoing and undoing, redoing and undoing. And once I kind of decided on really changing it so that you had two separate light sources. You had the backlit sunset lighting, and then I kind of wanted to have this warm blue coming from above that was sort of lighting the forest to really kind of give you this sense of that the Cheshire Cat is in the atmosphere. But once I hit on that with the cat, then of course you can see now it's almost like veins spreading through the tree, like veins of light as I go through. And I now, by applying that lighting that I put over the Cheshire Cat to the rest of the forest, the advantage that I'm getting here is that it's really kind of helping to unify and make the cat feel like it's in this environment. And that's something that I think I struggle with a lot in general, is that sense of environment. I think that composition is probably one of my strong suits, sort of laying things out graphically. But in terms of color and value and learning how to get them to interplay, to really create a sense of distance, of volume, and actual presence, that's a bit of a challenge. Now, when you're seeing this black and white flashing here, that was me experimenting a little bit, trying to get the process of pasting the line art into a mask for a layer. And this is a way, again, another tool from Color with Kurt's video, in terms of how to do color holds. And for those of you who are not familiar with comic book coloring, color holds are when you color the line art. So instead of actually painting on top of the line art, what I'm actually doing at this portion of the video is that the line art is basically pasted into a layer, or it's pasted into the mask over a layer, so that the only color that shows up is where that mask exists, which is where the line art exists. So what I'm going through now is I'm just painting on that layer, and I don't have to worry about masking it out or using flats to only color in certain areas. I'm just painting on it, and just lightening up the trees in the background. You can see that there were some where I painted on top of the tree color and had a little bit of warm light coming through. But for some of these more stark silhouettes, they're a little bit further in the distance, I'm going through and I'm just lightening those up, adding some color and light to that, adding light again also to the Cheshire Cat itself. Now you can see that the paws, there's like warm light coming through there. I'm coloring all that line art. There's a little bit of warm red on the nose. And now, as you can see, I went through. It's the interesting thing with these time lapses. A lot of times it just goes by so quick. It's just like a snap. And something that I spent that may have taken me like 5 or 10 minutes to do just appears instantly, like the soft gradient that's going on now in the background. And I have to check and see if there's a way to get Procreate to export out images, or can export the video at high res, because the only thing that bothers me about this is, as happy as I am to watch the whole thing play through, that it's a little bit low res and pixelated. So I threw in the high res finished image here at the end. And I'll include links to to Color with Kurt's channel, as well as a link to the page where you can buy this piece, the art print of it, as well as the rest of the Wonderland series. Thanks for watching. This video was brought to you by my subscribers on patreon.com. If you'd like to join them, go to patreon.com/GERIMI. For as little as $2 a month, you'll receive a bonus monthly video and a ton of behind-the-scenes artwork and blog posts. To read pages of my comics for free and keep up with what I'm creating, sign up for my monthly newsletter at newsletter.jeremy.net. And to buy physical copies of my comics or read digitally on Amazon Kindle, go to amazon.jeremy.net. That will forward you to my Amazon author page. That's it for now. Go be creative.